So excited to have all of you here. Thank you so much for coming. I'm going to go ahead and pass this over to Alex and Mira, and they're going to go and tell you more about Entheo Temple, which is their church. Pass it off. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Paul. Hello, happy Mushroom Festival. My name is Mira. I'm Alex. We are the co-founders of EntheoTemple.org. We are a nonprofit faith-based organization working with psilocybin mushrooms as a sacrament for spiritual understanding. And I'm going to give you a little agenda for what to expect, and we'll give you a bit of an introduction for ourselves. You have the clicker? So for the next hour, we'll be doing a little bit of a greeting and introduction about who we are, a little bit of information about what we believe based on how the sacrament has affected us and what seems to come through in the ceremonies that we host. A little bit of an introduction for anyone in the room who wants to do a quick intro, and it would be a very brief one. And best practices for the therapeutic use of psilocybin. So if you have been curious about going deeper than sparkles, what happens if you really, really go in, we'll be talking about that, as well as making space for anyone who's had a recent psychedelic journey, wanting to talk about what that trip was like and share that with the group for anyone who's newer. We will also offer existential question to the crowd if we have time, or we'll just be giving you a little bit of space for Q&A as things come up. And then we'll handle any final questions and wrap up. So I think we'll start, if you'll click over to the next slide, with a bit of an introduction. I'm going to have Alex go first.
Hi, I'm Alex Himes. So I started working with psilocybin and psychedelic mushrooms when I was 17. I started out in some pretty rough soil. I grew up in a pretty turbulent home, and I was originally looking to have a good time and experience something otherworldly. And I was really looking for more of the sparkly experience you mentioned earlier. So what I found quickly through working with mushrooms, that unlike other substances I had a relationship with, this one was teaching me something. So I came through a really dark period of my life, and every time I sat with the mushrooms, they would bop me on the head, and they would show me myself. So I learned over time that these are not a drug, they are not just for fun. Although you can have a light and pleasant and joyous time with them, there's a lot of deeper healing and trauma work that you can do when working with mushrooms.
My name is Mira Joleigh. I began working with psilocybin. I think I was first introduced to any type of psychedelic around the age of 20. So now it's been over 20 years. And it started just like with Alex, and I think with most of us, experimenting. Ooh, what does this do? It's sparkly. Maybe I'll see some unicorns or something. And slowly you do start to realize it can be much deeper than that. I've worked with several different types of entheogens. We use the word entheogen to describe the spiritual use of psychedelics as opposed to the recreational use of psychedelics. And that's kind of the base of Entheo Temple, how we came to that term. In any case, I also came from a relatively turbulent home. There was alcoholism, there was divorce, there was physical and emotional abuse. There was mental health things going on with my parents. There was a military upbringing where we were constantly uprooted and changing environments. And I came out of the closet as a teenager in the late 90s. So there was a lot going on there. And as I realized how much power there was in psychedelics for healing and how it complemented the work I was doing with therapists and with life coaches, I started to take it more seriously. And over the years that we've known each other, it has become integral to my spiritual experience in ways that I never thought possible because I have a lot of religious trauma from my faith of origin rejecting me. So for anyone who's had kind of a loss of faith, or maybe you're sitting in a place of atheism, I don't really know what I believe, or maybe you know deeply what you believe, but you're curious, could entheogens take it deeper? Could I have even more of a felt understanding? I'm happy you're here to listen. Thank you. Next slide. Maybe. So we're going to share a couple of our core beliefs that we've developed as a result of working with psilocybin. You don't have to share these beliefs, but these are the things that have come through to us. Let's take turns with it.
We believe we are spiritual beings having a human experience, each a unique incarnation of God consciousness. I am you, you are me, we are one. God is everything you see and God is all there is. I'd like to clarify that what God is to us and God is to each person is a unique thing in our eyes and our sight, and that can be a scary word for a lot of people, but what it is to me is the creative conscious energy that underlies our whole living experience. Hare Krishna. Yes.
Would anyone else like to shout out a couple of words that you relate to God? Because, you know, it could be that dude with the beard in the sky somebody thinks that is, but it could be many things. What do you think? What is it? What are the words that come to you? May the force be with you. Source. Mycelium, the network. The interconnectedness. Most high. The ultimate. I think of it as my connection to intuition. Anyone else? Happiness. Ooh, I like that. Love. Creator, energy, intelligence, connection. So it can mean whatever it means to you. Next slide. We believe life and death are both conscious energy, and everything is energy. Energy cannot be created or destroyed, therefore God consciousness and you are infinite and eternal. I think a lot of us have been through grief and have asked ourselves some really hard questions about what happens at the end of this physical iteration, and that's what we've come to as a result of spending time with the sacrament.
We believe the highest spiritual principle is loving one another unconditionally and teaching and healing each other. We do not stop learning at adulthood. We raise each other at all ages. I believe that there is wisdom in everyone, whether or not that you agree with their point of view. We are all students and we are all teachers. And if we show compassion for everyone, no matter what side of the aisle they stand on, no matter how they may challenge us and again become that difficult mirror for us to look into, I believe that we all teach each other. And I think about all ages, I think that we need to value the wisdom of our elders more, and we also need to look at children for the purity of their sight and the way in which children find the absurdity of the rules and the structure and the teachings that we give them of how to fit into the box that society has created.
There was something I wanted to add to that, but I forgot what it was. Give me just a second. I think it was that we're all teachers and we're all students. And I've really been sitting in that awareness every day, all day, because no matter what we're going through, there's something to learn. And a lot of times that going throughness is a result of other humans. Usually nature doesn't put us through stuff. It's people that put us through stuff. Next. We believe that our beliefs and perceptions create our reality, if you're familiar with the law of attraction. Our mental states manifest our lived experience. We can create our own bliss or torment on earth based on how connected or disconnected we are with God consciousness, which is to say, maybe this is relatable for y'all. Have you ever had a gut instinct to do something, but because of some societal programming or some expectation, you don't do the thing your gut told you to do, and then life gets harder? And then you finally give up and you're like, okay, whatever, I'll do what my gut's telling me. And then life gets easier. It's funny how that works.
Find the flow. I want to say about this one, we create our experience, our consciousness, and our beliefs as they manifest our reality. When you think about the people in your life who struggle to find positivity or struggle to find the blessing in a situation, so many times you find that if you just hold on to that knowledge that if I look at how this is working for me, look at how the universe is serving me, because it is me, the universe is me, and I put this here for a reason. And so when you hang on with that knowledge, sure enough, eventually you'll see how it is a blessing, how maybe that person was driving too slow because there was an accident just ahead of you. So you just remember when you feel your feelings bubbling up and trying to take control, to go with it and release it and find your way back to love, because sure enough, there's a blessing in it for you. On the next one. We believe we partake in the sacrament of earth medicine, plant medicine, sacred psilocybin mushrooms. The sacrament is a gift from the source which uniquely enable us to realize our God consciousness. This calls to a confronting belief that when you tell someone when they're their hardest times that this is what I'm creating for myself, that when we take responsibility for our life and we take responsibility for the hardships that come to us, then we can feel less of a victim to them. And when we feel less disempowered by the circumstances that come to us, we can return to that flow. We can return to the knowledge that this is working for me. What do you have to add?
Thank you for sitting with us sharing our beliefs. I feel like we don't do that a lot in our culture, so thank you. Next. So one of the things that Entheo Temple does, in addition to hosting regular hikes and coffee shop meet and greets, we're developing gatherings around the fact that we all use the sacrament as a way to access deeper spiritual understanding. And one of those ways is that we host very deep psilocybin mushroom journeys in our home in a very safe container so that folks can know that all circumstances are set up for them to have the best possible insight and journey from that experience. Or if you've ever tried to do it at home alone, you're like, am I doing this right? And you may not have had the best experience, or maybe you did that in a public setting and found out quickly that that wasn't the setting. So you're welcome to drop by the website to hear more about that, or ask us about what we offer after the talk. So this is a little bit of an ask, but would anyone like to share a name, where you're from, and what you're working on in your spiritual growth right now? I'll give you an example. My name is Mira. I'm from close to Cumberland Island, Southeast Georgia. And the thing that I'm working on in my life right now is noticing the energies of dominance and submission, or yin and yang, in my life, and how those energies are kind of flowing around me, and what responsibility I have as a leader. That's what I've been working on. So, like, in a sentence. Would you like to share?
Hi, I'm Nova, and I'm from Fort Lauderdale by way of Brooklyn, New York, and now I'm here. So what's up? Hey. And right now, I'm learning to connect more with my womb and have more conversations with my womb. Because that's something I feel like as women, we've never really ever done. Has your mom ever told you, hey, do you talk to your womb? What is your connection to that? To what you're feeling and like everything. So I'm kind of like on my sacred woman journey right now. So if you don't know who Queen Afua is, just Google her and she will help you out, women. Okay, I love you. Bye.
Thank you, Nova. Anyone else feel brave? Want to jump up and just give us a couple of points on who you are, where you're from, and what you've been working on in your personal growth? Because I know we're all on that journey right now. Yeah, please jump up.
I'm Tony. I'm from Hapeville, and I just retired this year, and I'm going from punching a clock for the man to dealing with my inner angels and demons.
Thank you so much for sharing. I think the more that we talk vulnerably about the things that we're going through, or the things that we're working on, the more we realize that we are all kind of on a similar path. We're all doing the same work. We're just doing it quietly and privately. For you?
Hi, I'm Spencer. I'm also from Fort Lauderdale. I think that's what you said. And I've been working on balancing skepticism and acceptance, and just trying to figure out, like, truth, because, like, we live in this web of media that is hard to decipher. So.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Alex. I'm from North Georgia, Woodstock, And something I'm working on at this point in my life is recognizing my feelings as they come up in my body and learning how to recognize dysregulation in myself and others as an opportunity to hold space, as opposed to jumping into explanations or self-righteousness or listening to the voice of my victim. So asking first, meeting with curiosity, how may I help you? And how may I help me? Thank you. Thank you. Anybody else?
That victim voice will make you feel like you did something wrong, and it's like, well, bitch, I'm here to help you.
Yes, ma'am, it will.
No, I'm so serious. That victim voice.
Mm-hmm.
So whiny. Oh, it's good. I like your energy now.
Hi, I'm Cajun. I'm from California, but I've been in Georgia for like 12, 13 years. I'm currently working on accepting death and balancing my emotions and confidence.
Thank you so much, Cajun. Yeah. Hi, I know you.
My name is Cooper. I call Alpharetta home right now. And one of the things that I'm working on is the release of the ego, where it's not important what other people think, and it's more important how you feel. And I think that's a great thing that I'm working on. And that's what I'm doing.
Thank you, Cooper. I'd like to make a quick distinction on the topic of ego. Feel free to sit down. We think of ego as being self-righteous or like a narcissist, but every one of us has an ego, and it's just our constructed sense of self. Who am I in the world? What has the world told me that I am, and my race and my gender and my culture and my class and all of these things that are this constructed idea of who we are. But what's deeper than that is what psilocybin mushrooms will show you. It's not this meat suit that we were blessed with. It's much deeper than that. I'm just getting eye contact over here. Would you like to introduce?
My name is Gray. I called Decatur home and currently working on reparenting my inner child. But what's more difficult lately is I'm reparenting my inner teenager, which has a lot of work.
Thank you so much. Can I ask you a follow-up question? Is your inner teenager a brat by chance? Sometimes? You have a 3-month-old now. Oh, yeah. Man, raise of hands if having children showed you who you were in a way you never expected. Thank you. Anyone else feel brave, want to jump up and do a quick hello? Yeah, please do.
Oh, thank you. Sorry. Hey, everyone. My name's Mimi. I'm from Roswell, Georgia, born and raised here in Atlanta. And I just lived out in Oregon, out in Portland for 2 years, and now I'm back here in Atlanta, and it's kind of like, not shell shock, but like so different for plenty of reasons. And I think like a lot of what you had said earlier about like not trying to be so in control of everything, because in reality we're not in control of literally anything other than how we choose to like respond, not react, but like respond. And that's like, I think, a huge one. And, getting over my ego and things like that. Everybody said really great things, but yeah, the like letting go of trying to control what I can't control, which is like mostly everything. So it's hard.
Thank you. I used to live in Portland. It's nice to meet you. Yeah, jump in.
Something there. Reparenting and ego. Ego. I want to quote Ram Dass on this and say, beyond all polarities, I am. And that is to say, I am. I am simply this. I am simply this awareness. I am this love. And when you take away the definitions that we put after the words I am, then you're witnessing your ego. I am young, I am old, I am I'm an artist, I am not good enough, I am all of those things. Those are polarities, and that's when we're separating ourselves. And so when you're going back to a place of connection and source, you just get rid of the polarities. I am centered, a centered being. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. I think there'll be more time, so as questions come up a little bit later on, I may ask that before you ask the question, you do a little intro about what you're working on and then jump into the question. What's on the next slide? All right, so this is a really important topic. If you've ever, maybe a show of hands, who here has tried psilocybin mushrooms? Maybe 50%? Awesome, thank you for your honesty. Who here has ever had a really hard experience with psilocybin mushrooms? A couple of us, all right. On the other side, who's had a really blissful, fun, awesome experience? Nice, good, and hopefully a little bit of both. So many of us try psilocybin on a recreational level. We might have 1 gram or 2 grams, and we're out with friends, and we're all giggly, or we're in nature, and we're like, whoa, look at that tree. The rainbow is triplicate today, whatever the case may be. And as you go deeper, you get curious about what would happen if I had twice that or 3 times that amount, and where would that take me? The deeper you go, the more important your set and setting is. So I'm going to pass this off to Alex to talk about some of the best practices when you decide to go deep in the 3.5 to 5 gram range. Back to you.
So when you're doing a therapeutic or a heroic dose with psilocybin mushrooms, what's important is that you make sure you set a safe container for yourself. So anyone who knows if you go a little deeper with mushrooms, or even when you're on a light dose, stimuli that can be overwhelming or unpleasant is even more so, and can really distract from the experience. So what we recommend to do is you make sure that you have a clean, tidy, low sensory place where you're unlikely to be interrupted by pets, children, maybe the needs of partners or parents or anything like that. So you make sure that you're there with yourself. You may light candles, you may set yourself up with some music you've pre-vetted, something that's non-lyrical, maybe some solfeggio tunes, nothing that really arcs emotionally unless you're specifically choosing to experience that. I'm going to pass it back to you. Let's see where you take it.
If you're going in at 3.5 or more grams, it is valuable to have someone that you love and trust nearby as a space holder, but not in the room with you. Someone who is in the next room, and they might peek in on you once in a while and make sure you look like you're doing good, maybe bring you something if you need it, but they're going to stay hands off because the experience you're having is between you and the spirit of the medicine. There's nothing that your space holder could say to you that would be any more potent than what you're going to be getting from your mushroom experience. And as you're preparing to go in, you'll want to sit down with a journal and really think through, why am I doing this and what do I hope to get out of it? And I'll give you a few examples of the types of questions you could ask yourself. What do I hope to learn today? What am I willing to release? What am I calling into my life now? And what will I say to myself if this journey gets hard? Because sometimes it gets really dark and you have to go through the muck of whatever that historical thing is to work it out. And I'll pass it back to you.
So some of the experience that you may have when doing a therapeutic or a heroic dose, sometimes people have a light and blissful journey. Sometimes people have altogether what is very difficult and confronting. And I really like what you said earlier about releasing control. That is a really important factor when you're going deep with psilocybin, that you accept wherever it's going to take you. Something that I've found is that the more I resist any unpleasantness that I may bring up about my life or about how I may be, the more it surrounds me with that feeling. You may find that you reach a moment where you're wondering, did I break my brain? Will I ever come back? Can I function in life the way I used to before? Yes, you can. You will come back. You're going to be okay. In fact, you're probably going to be better than you were before. And something about going in deep, it seems like that's the big wow experience, the actual journey itself, but you'll find in the weeks to come after a deep journey that you are showing up differently in your life. Where that victim voice showed up and started shattering right away, you'll see how the situations are all inherently neutral. Everything is neutral beyond the meaning that we give it, and you'll start to be able to witness that incrementally, time by time. Like an onion, you peel layers off, and there you are again.
Thank you. A few more important best practices. When you know you're planning to go deep, we would recommend a couple of days of very intentional self-care, reducing any meat or dairy intake, cutting out alcohol, cannabis, any other toxins that you may put in your body. It's helpful to reduce caffeine, nicotine, and you may want to consult with an integration specialist about any SSRIs or SNRIs that you might be on if you're taking any kind of depression or anxiety meds. Those can counteract and completely block the effects of psilocybin. And lastly, if you have any, hey, my cousin's here. If you have any health or psychiatric issues such as heart problems, lung problems, or a history of psychosis, you may also want to check in with someone like us before you do this. Those would be things just to make sure that you're in the safety zone around. Back to you.
I'm trying to think if there's anything else we haven't touched on here. After you come out.
Most psilocybin mushroom journeys are about a 4 to 6 hour arc. So in the first 2 hours, my experience is that I'm physically uncomfortable. I can't seem to find a comfortable position in my bed. I would recommend being in a bed with the curtains drawn and a candle lit, and know that you're probably going to be a little uncomfortable for a while. I will go through a phase where I feel like I'm in a freezer and everything's really cold for no reason at all. So have lots of blankets nearby. That usually passes. Sometimes you'll just kind of be hit with like one aha moment after another, and it's coming at you so fast you can't make sense of it. It feels like I'm getting a software upgrade in my brain. That's normal. That's what happens. That's normal. And then there'll come a point for most people around the 2 hour mark where it starts to coast into a little bit more comfort and bliss, and you get into this little euphoric state where everything is love. Now, that's not everyone's experience, but those are some common themes. And in those last 2 hours, you might feel like, oh, it's over. It's not over. Stay in your bed. It's not over yet. You may want to get up and go to the bathroom, and this might be a good time where you can actually convince yourself to get up out of your bed. But go lay down again. Be with the sounds of the gentle nature sounds or whatever you put in the background, and sit with the subtleties of those last 2 hours, because that's where some of the juiciest processing happens. That's where you might be reflecting on your ex or that person you care about that hurt you, or any number of things that you're going through that you need to really sit with. So that's the powerful second half of a mushroom journey. And then in the maybe 5 and 6 hour mark is when you might want to get out of your bed. What would you do after you get out of your bed?
So once you get out of your bed, I mean, assuming you can stay in your bed if you want to, I would recommend that you have a journal nearby. You can write down some of your experience. You probably know if you've done this before, if you try to write it down during your journey, your muscles aren't doing what you tell them to. So you might be getting elbow signals in your fingers. So, just give it some time, let it sink in. Don't worry about the lessons passing through and you not being able to hold on to them. They're in there. Yeah, so afterward, you journey. Generally, we offer people a few questions to ground them back in, or we'll review some of those questions you wrote before your journey. So revisit your intentions, and usually you'll see that they came through for you. Anything else?
Or it gave you something completely different than what you wrote down, but it was what you needed because you didn't know what you needed. Yeah. Some of the questions I ask myself after a journey are, what were the themes? What were the themes that came up? What insights or downloads came through? Sometimes it's a sentence and it's so profound that it's simple. It could be, it's okay. And that was the message, and that was what I needed to hear, and it hit differently that time because it was in my cells and not just in my head. Or it could be a download like, there are no expectations. If you've ever had a relationship with someone who has a lot of expectations of you, you know that doesn't feel good. So that was the message I needed that day. The next question I ask myself is, what changes am I inspired to make in my life now? Because a lot of time the mushroom says, you need to do something different. And you're like, oh yeah, you're right, I need to do something different. I think I'm actually going to do it this time. My mother, after working with psilocybin a few sessions, quit a 10-year habit of smoking and was able to get off of SSRIs. And I'm so proud. And she did that. I didn't do it for her. I just held space. She did that. Talk about your mom for a second.
Yeah. So our moms are a really big part of the temple and a really big part of our story. We briefly touched on the fact that we came from difficult homes and came from a home with a lot of love and a lot of chaos. And my mother has a healthy heap of both inside of her. And about when she was 68, and I had been watching her since she was 50, and my dad passed away pretty unexpectedly. She fell into a very deep depression, and she started hoarding very severely. And that, I was 15 at the time, and that just became kind of the new normal, the new reality in my life. And so I went through, as I touched on earlier, I went through exploration with drugs and addiction with alcohol and problematic relationships. And around 25, I started really deepening with my psilocybin practice. And after years of that, about 10 years or so, I started giving my mom mushroom microdoses when she was 68. And she came out of that first experience saying, I never knew I had anxiety until it was gone. And so she kept working with the microdoses. 2 years into that, we started doing some organizing work as a profession and a part of the temple outreach. And my mom said, I think I'm ready for your help. And so we came in and we helped her unload 2 9 by 8 by 16 foot dumpsters out of the basement and 1 out of the attic. I don't remember the measurements. It was a lot of stuff. Let's say it's just rocking chairs to the ceiling.
Just to say, it's a really big deal.
It's a really big deal. And we started sending her on mushroom journeys. And deep, 4 grams, 5 grams mushroom journeys with a very potent strain. And by this time, she's 70 years old, and she's going in deep. And she's started coming out. She's gotten out of tremendous debt. She's changed her spending habits. She quit drinking, and she's released most of everything she's hoarded since my father passed away. And she's maintaining. And she is, at this point in her life, no longer afraid of death. And that has been a crippling fear for years, fear of death. And so thank you for listening to my story, and thank you all for being here and being a part of this vulnerability, because that's what it takes to heal.
Can anyone offer me a time check real fast? Time check. 3:30, okay, thank you. So I was giving you questions for after you come out of your mushroom journey, and we just fell into testimonials. So thanks for listening. So you're asking yourself, what were the themes? What were the insights? What am I inspired to do differently? And how will I stay accountable to integrating these lessons into my life? Because you can have a wild, wacky experience and then kind of forget what you learned and then just go back to your normal habits and then what'd you do it all for? Or you can have an intense experience and commit to doing something differently in your life, because nothing changes if nothing changes. So whatever's not working requires your action. The mushrooms aren't going to heal you. You're going to do the healing yourself. What it will do, though, and we use this metaphor often, is it's sort of like, you remember the Etch-a-Sketch from the 80s? Anybody play with that toy? It's a little magnetic thing that you draw with, and it has these 2 little knobs. And if you drew with the little knobs and you had this little whatever on the screen and you never picked it up and shook it, it would just be that way forever. And that's kind of like the neural pathways in your brain that you developed long ago when you were a child. You developed ways of being that were a response to your environment. And those neural pathways are still running your life Your nervous system is running your life, really. We saw a funny meme about this the other day. And a psilocybin journey creates neuroplasticity in your brain, and it's kind of like shaking the Etch-a-Sketch and wiping the slate clean, and then you get to reprogram and release the things that aren't working anymore, because some of those programs are taking you down sort of dysfunctional patterns, and we don't want those dysfunctional patterns anymore. For you?
Oh, the same roads you've always walked.
Yeah, the same roads. I'm not saying it's all bad, but there are certain things that all of us would like to be different, and it's easier to do that when you can kind of reset and shake up the Etch-a-Sketch. So those are the 4 integration questions that I would have you use at the end of a mushroom ceremony. And then the rest of the power is in the weeks and months after. Would you like to talk about that? The weeks and months after a journey.
The weeks and months after a journey. First, I kind of want to touch on the lifetime before the journey. So we talked about trauma. We talked about how these cycles get stuck in your brain. The weeks and the months after the journey are when you're most neuroplastic. This is when you can make intentional changes. This is when you can set a new habit. You can decide, I'm going to change the way I eat. You can decide, I'm going to change the way I exercise. I'm going to change the way I communicate with my partner. You can make active changes in your life. Like you said, you can reprogram. Those acting from the trauma from before a journey, when you set your intentions and you go in clearly and you know the ways in which you're blocking yourself and you don't know what you don't know, you start to get a view of yourself. So in the weeks after your journey, you're going to find yourself seeing yourself. You're going to be witnessing. There is the ego, which we believe. When you act from the ego, you're on autopilot. There are 2 voices in your mind, right? At least, minimal. How many of you have radio chatter? I know I do. I have like 6 of them going at all times. And you can change the channel. You can be intentional, and you can turn some of the volume down on those. Or you can look at them and you can respond. You can say, thank you for being here. I appreciate your opinion. You can even do a little internal family work where you recognize which voices those are. Oh, that's my father. Oh, that's my mother. Internal family systems. You can pinpoint where these are coming from. And that's not how you want to talk to yourself. Those old tapes running in the background. So you can witness. Because if there's somebody in there telling you you're not good enough, or you didn't do it right, or you're a burden to others, or whatever the voice is that's in your mind that's getting in your way, oh, I can't believe they did that to me. Whatever that voice is, there's somebody listening to the voice saying all of that stuff. And that's the one who witnesses. That's the one who listens. And you're going to be in a deeper presence with them after a journey. Deeper presence with you, the actual consciousness that listens to all those voices. So in the weeks after your journey, pay attention and try not to leap on the first voice that pops in there. Remember to witness that thinking, to witness the feeling in your bodies, because you're more attuned and you're softer. You're all mushy. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you for that. What's on the next slide? Aha, we've already been doing this a bit, but I would love if anyone in the crowd has a psychedelic experience that they would want to share, maybe a little 3-minute synopsis of some of what may have happened to you in that journey. This is a big ask. You want to share one? All right, jump in. 3 to 5 minutes.
It's probably going to be a little shorter than that, though. Okay, so like I said, my name is Nova, right? So there was a time where I took shrooms. I was at home. I was in my room, and I just bought this plant. And it was I don't even know what kind of plant it was, but it was cute, you know, from Kroger or Walmart or whatever. It was nice, and I loved it. And I would sing to it and just touch it and hug it, and took my shrooms, and the plant decided to start talking to me. So the plant told me that its name was Silky, and I'm looking at this plant, and I'm like, Silky? Okay. And I'm looking at its leaves, and I'm like, you're so beautiful. And I'm just like, there was just like an aura emanating off of the plant. So I'm in my feels. I'm in it. So mind you, I'm having good feels because with everything, I like to tell myself, hey, I'm about to go into this. I know how I want to feel when I experience it, and I want to have a good trip while I'm there. Show me what I need from spirit, right? So some hours go by. Next thing you know, I went from Nicole to Nova. So God came down and told me my name was Nova. So I'm adopted, for one. So my birth mother didn't name me. I was baby girl McDonald for 2 weeks. And then I was named Nicole after that. And then I was like, okay, victory of the people, but what about my own personal victory? I'm tired of being everyone else's victory. God's like, no, my child, your name is Nova. So with the meaning of Nova, it's just, a star that shines brightly, goes into reclusion, shines brightly, like, I'm shining on you. Feel me? You know what I'm saying? So like it was really, really beautiful, and that was my experience with it, and that's how I got the name Nova, because the source told me my name, and yeah.
Thank you so much. I know a lot of people who've had psychedelic experiences and changed their names. It's really something. It's like you get a deeper understanding of who you are, and you want something physical or experiential to reflect that. But it wasn't like you chose it, it chose you. Yeah, it's really cool. Anyone else have a recent experience they'd like to share? Yeah?
Okay, is standing here fine? Is this okay? Okay, I don't know. I had I've had many experiences with psychedelics. Magic mushrooms are the answer. They're one of them, but they're the answer. And it was like, this is back in Portland. I just got back. Wonderful place. Everybody should visit. Anyways, it was like the anniversary of a weekend that, I'm like gonna get choked up, was just not great, traumatic. And a lot of different things were happening, and I decided to have myself a journey to get connected, because I'm like, that's the only way I'm gonna get through this. So, with a little help from some marijuana and a little help from another substance called ketamine, I don't know if I'm allowed to talk about that. It's also one of the answers. Oh my God, it was exactly what I needed. And I was with my best friend who I'd moved there with. She's like soul sister, like we're like the same atom that got split and somehow managed to find one another in when we're supposed to, it's like this woman over here. She's meant to be in my life 110%. Anyways, oh my God, it was like I have never felt more connected, and it was just this wave of just everything is okay. Even though the weekend was happening and it was, relatively sad, I just I knew, I had no doubt in my mind everything was okay, and we were all connected. Every single person I walked by, every single car I saw, the music that was on, it was all this source itself was just playing this beautiful movie for me, and I don't even, I'm out of words. It was insane. And I had an ego death, okay? I let myself just die. I was like, okay, if this is it, I had a good life, I'm on to the next. I'm just gonna get recycled back in and everything's gonna be okay. It was just this sheer feeling of being so connected to everyone and everything, my plants, the sky, all of it. It was insane, and it was just what I needed, and I believe it came from God, itself. Everybody's got to do it. No peer pressure, but I love what y'all are doing. It was amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I love that. You said it better than anyone could say it. That's the universal experience for so many of us. We're all connected, and it's okay. That's the message. Yeah,
It's like being conscious as a newborn as you come out, and then being like, I just took my first breath. But you're a newborn, and you literally just got here. That's what it's like. It's like, oh, shit. It's really like that.
You come out with a child's brain. Yeah, in the best way. Yeah. Yeah. I actually would like to take a moment to talk about ego death. Everybody not familiar? A couple of us never heard of this? Okay, got a few questions here. Jump in.
How many of you have had an ego death? Raise your hand.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, so there's a lot to talk about with ego deaths. I'll go into this. I experience an ego death every time I sit with the mushrooms now. I essentially, when you're in the medicine and you're going really deep, one of the first things I do is I curl over and I bundle up and I get cozy, and just kind of after I get confronted with all of these unpleasant sensations, and I just open myself up to them and I say, okay, more of you. What do I have to learn here? Oh, are you good? You got that lesson? All right, we're going to go somewhere else now. And so then it confronts me from another direction in my life, from some hostile energy comes at me, and I welcome it. Anything hostile, anything uncomfortable or unpleasant is a lesson, and I welcome it. And just, okay, give that to me. And then when I keep surrendering, if I just keep releasing control and surrendering, I find myself in this moment where I snap. My body goes away. I'm no longer confined by this body. I can feel it, just this open expanse. My whole being is everywhere. It's every particle in the universe. I'm no longer confined by this body. I'm no longer confined by this mind and this persona. I am everything. I am all things. I'm the universe. I am you, and you are me. We are each other, and we are because of each other. And every consciousness in the universe is just a window through which my eternal soul peers. And I'm in that space, and it's eternal. There's no beginning, there is no end. There never was a beginning, and there will never be an end. Everything is consciousness, and it's pure and everlasting. This is just my ego death. I don't know what yours is like. And this one just keeps happening. It just keeps coming back for me. But there is a purpose that we think ego deaths serve, and there's also a calling to ego deaths. And I think you know what I'm talking about. I want to pass it over to you.
This hit us both like a ton of bricks a couple days ago. We realized that, trigger warning, suicide, when we have ideation that we want to give up and that we feel like this life isn't worth living, I have interpreted that to mean that we need an ego death. We don't actually want to die, but our sense of self may need to be challenged or broken down so that we can realize our oneness, because when we're so stuck in separation, we think we're alone, that's when we most feel like we don't want to be here anymore. So if you've ever felt that, I want to normalize that. I go through that sometimes. I know she goes through that sometimes. I think it's pretty common in the human experience to feel like you want to give up sometimes and you don't want to be here anymore. What if that is an ego death calling you? You don't need to die. Come sit with the mushrooms and see what happens. Thank you. And we run into people very often that are tortured with that exact feeling. So we work with some deep, heavy stuff, and whatever you may be going through, if you're feeling called, talk to us. We're generous. We invite you into our community space. You don't have to necessarily sit with us, but we want to spread the understanding and the education about this, because, man, I don't know, maybe some of you are going to relate to this. If we could just give all the world leaders a mushroom journey one day, something would change. It would change quickly. I know. How are we going to make that happen? What's on the next slide? Existential question. Ooh, we didn't plan this one really directly, but one of them's going to pop in our heads.
My first thought is, how is love embodied in your life, by you or by others?
That's a good one. I'm going to answer it while you think about it. And somebody, I know we got some extroverts, somebody's going to come up here and talk about it. How is love embodied in your life? It feels most pure to me when I'm encountering a non-human soul, like a cat or a dog, and you don't have to have words to engage them. If you have a real sweet connection with an animal creature, there's just an understanding in your being, because they're a being too. They're not the same kind of being, but who's to say that they're not? I mean, like, we think they're not because of the understanding of ourselves as separate, but I feel like it's most pure when it's a non-human connection and I'm just with it. Love also feels really embodied to me when I have quiet time in nature, and I just feel the perfection of and the abundance of nature doing exactly what it does. Everything is exactly where it needs to be, and I realize that I'm a part of that. That's a great prompt.
Love in my life feels most embodied to me when I'm coming from a place of service. And even if it's to a stranger, even if it is in an overcrowded Waffle House where the tables aren't getting bussed and that server is losing her mind and this lady needs to sit down, well, I'm gonna go take some plates off that table. And here, have a seat. Just random acts of kindness, random acts of love, and remembering I love you, and looking at everyone and remembering you're my family and you are me, and loving the temple that is my body, because what I do to myself, I do to you, and what I do to you, I do to myself. And that is when love feels most embodied in my life and most pure. Anybody else have a moment of love in your life you'd like to share? I see you in the back. Come on up here with that fabulous hat. Yeah.
Hello, my name is Unity. My representations of love in my life is how I develop with my friends. How if they're going through a bad time and I know that they start to lash out, I know I have the space to be like, hey, it's okay, just go ahead. And then they're like, I'm sorry. And it's like, I know, I understand. It's all right. Be mad, be angry, be sad. I'm here for you for that exact reason. So I love you for that. And they're just crying with me. I'm like, it's okay. And then when I get that type of way, and then I need space, and I need people, and I'm starting to go out, and I'm starting to lash, and they're with me. They're like, I'm here for you, Trin. Thank you. I needed that. Because sometimes you always can't be perfect.
Thank you. Thank you. Feeling your feelings, giving people space to feel theirs. Anyone else? All right. Oh, I will. Hey. You know what? We have about 5 minutes left. Okay, I have something I'd like to do, but it requires consent first. One of our friends just walked in the room. Do we have consent to ask for one of your practices? Can I call you up? Hi. Thank you, Will. Thank you. This is Will. He's a friend of ours. We love him dearly. And he's always showing up with excellent practices for embodiment. So is there anything that comes to you for today?
The first thing that comes to mind is grief. So grief is a package with a lot of emotions: sadness, anger, fear. I've heard a quote that says, you know, the feeling that you've, one of your feet has like been pressed on and the blood flow hasn't gone to it for a while, and then as you like regain the blood flow in the foot and it wakes up, and that feeling is grief. It's something that you didn't realize you lost, and suddenly you miss it. A good way to embody it. I do this practice. It's kind of intense. It's borrowed from Tibetan Buddhism, where they vividly imagine their death. from the moments leading up to it, to after the death, to their body decomposing, and then there's a tremendous amount of peace with it. So one thing you can do with anything you fear that you will lose is to just step into the fear and just imagine, if I'm in a relationship that I feel so afraid to lose this partner because they're conditional on my happiness, then I would just sit there and imagine they're gone. Just one day, poof, they're gone. And just go through the process of losing them, feel the entire package of grief, and then feel what happens afterwards. Feel the continuous buzzing of life that will continuously come at you and nurture you gently, patiently, and everything will still be all right. So, yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Will. Yes, you want to wrap up? Go ahead.
I don't know if you can see that because of the light. The sunlight has taken over. In conclusion, thank you so much for being here. A round of applause for everyone who showed up for this. If you're here, you might be kind of into shadow diving, and I think that's pretty sexy. So if you'd like to connect with us more, we'll probably go hang out in that front room to visit a little bit so we're not interfering with the next talk. Also, tomorrow morning at 11 a.m., we'll be at Hodgepodge Coffee Shop in Atlanta. That location is about to close, so we're trying to support them the last 2 months that they're here open. So if you can come out and hang out with us at 11 a.m. tomorrow, you'll have even more opportunity to hear our stories and share what you have going on for you and meet more people in our community. So thank you again so much. It's an honor, and enjoy the next speaker.
Thank you so much, everybody who participated, everybody who held space and listened. And thank you, Will, for popcorning up here. Thank you. Yeah, you can follow us on Instagram and on Facebook. Entheo.
If you're on Facebook, that's probably one of the best places to go. It's Entheo Temple Atlanta Sacred Psychedelic Mushroom Church, and it's a Facebook group. There's about 1,200 people in there. So if you join that group, it's a good way to stay connected. There's also a meetup group by the same name, Entheo Temple Atlanta Sacred Psychedelic Mushroom Church. And then you are Alex Himes on Facebook and Instagram, and I am Mira Joleigh on Facebook and Instagram. Thank you again, y'all. Enjoy your Mushroom Fest.